Okay. This is probably going to be at least another month of development before this is ready. But I just want to make this video to force myself to stop adding new things and just sort of focus on getting another build out on Patreon, because it's been I think February was the last update, and I just get a bit paranoid about the fact that because of the way I'm doing crowdfunding, I have all these people giving me money every month, and I'm just a bit worried. I get a bit worried about people, even though every time I mention this, people are like, no, don't worry about that. But in my head, people are thinking to themselves, what is this guy doing in the background? Is he even working? I promise you, I'm very stressed out and miserable. You'll be happy to hear. No, I'm only joking, but basically I'll just try and list all of the new things that I've been working on that will be in the next build, and then I'm going to try my hardest not to start anything new. I'm just going to focus on getting this ready. So, okay, I have a list here in my other monitor to make sure I don't miss anything. So, right. So the thing that's taken the majority of development time, 95%, is this new history panel here on the right hand side. You have this thing called history. And so as you start doing things, oh, that was wrong. That didn't. Well, I'm going to notice all kinds of bugs while I'm doing this, because like I said, it's going to take another month of development before things are ready. I need to find all the bugs and things. But see, as I'm doing things that are appearing here. That sometimes you get little visualizations of the things that are changing. It's a bug I know about. The name doesn't appear here after you change it. Okay, so this is a list of things that happened, and then if you press Control Z to undo, it's just going backwards in this list. Control Y will go forwards in the list. But then you could also just click anywhere and it will jump there instantly. And it should be instant even if you have 1,000 items in this list, because I'm doing something very sophisticated in the background where, well, how to explain that? What it's not doing, if I'm here, for example, and I click here, what it's not doing is just automating the process of going undo, and going through all these states. That's not what it's doing. It's doing something a lot more sophisticated, where it's basically comparing this project state to this project state, figuring out what the differences are in a very sort of sophisticated but efficient way. And then it will only make the changes to all of the various subsystems that it needs to do to account for exactly the difference between this and this. And it can do that comparison very quickly because of the way that these underlying data structures are set up. Hopefully that makes sense to a layperson, or if you are a programmer, then if I use the phrase persistent data structures, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so that might seem like a very small thing, but it was involved a massive rewrite in the hood, but then it opens up a few interesting things. So for example, what I can do now is, oh yeah, these context menus are much nicer now because I'm not using the default Godot context menus anymore. If I bounce these two blocks into a new sample like this, I can then, for example, delete these original blocks. Now if I click here, I can go restore source blocks to get whatever was involved in the bounce operation. That data is basically stored against the sample data. So even if, for example, so this block here has source blocks associated with it. If I create a copy of that and then create another bounce of those two, for example, and delete the originals, This would normally be faster, but I'm in a debug build, so everything's a bit slow. Then I can go restore source blocks. And of course this sample also has source blocks associated with it, so I can get all the way back to the original 2 blocks, and then there's no option here because these are the original blocks. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm not visualizing that very well, but basically bouncing is not a destructive operation anymore. It's non-destructive, sort of, because you can always get back the original. Whatever was involved in creating that bounce sample, you can always get it back. Oh, one thing I didn't mention about the history panel. This is a bit weird. I think this is the way that Emacs works. I've never used Emacs before in my life, but as I understand it, this is how the Emacs history works. So if you're maybe if you're a nerd, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But normally what would happen in... Oh, this is a bug as well. I'm scrolling this, but it's also scrolling the workspace. Normally, if you were to undo to a previous point in history, and then you were to do something else at this point, then this entire branch of the history would just be discarded and it would be gone forever. That's how things work in normal applications, right? But in Blockhead, if I were to go back from the present to a point in history and then do something else, like add a track, for example, it's just going to add... What it's done is it's... The act, well, you could think of it is the act of undoing is itself an undoable operation. So when I was here and I added a track, what it did was it added an item at the end of the history called recall state 19, see 19, and then it added the new track. So now I can undo the addition of the new track like that. Now I'm back to here, which is the same state as here. Then if I undo again, I'm back in this branch of history. So the history is never lost. There's no danger of ever losing anything that you do by, for example, going back in history and then doing something else, which is like what typically happens in any application that has a simple sort of undo redo mechanism. Sorry, that's really boring. Sorry, but I just thought I should mention that. Okay. What's next? Bounce in place. This is something that people have been asking for ages. I can right click, I can select all of these blocks and say bounce in place. And it does that. Again, this is just I'm in debug mode, so it's a bit slow to update things. Yes. So normally the way this worked before is the best you could do is you could go bounce and then you'd have to like place it and then remove the original box and then put it back. But now this just does it automatically for you. There's a bunch of caveats here. For example, if you select this block and this block but not the one in the middle, then this option to bounce in place is just not available. And the keyboard shortcut for it wouldn't work either. I can't remember what the keyboard shortcut is, but it would be in here. Shift Control B. Also, I think if you have things on separate lanes, then the option won't be available. So the rule is all the blocks have to be on the same lane, and there can't be unselected blocks at any point in the sequence of blocks that you select. So if you have an unselected block, then you can't bounce in place. You have to make sure there's no gaps, if you can think of it like that, and then you can bounce in place. Okay, I won't go into the rationale behind those rules, but so bounce in place, blah, 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 blah. Okay, oh right, okay. Comfort view. Let's say you have some kind of track built up. maybe this track is minimized, and let's say that this is like a sort of comfortable zoom level and configuration of lanes. Maybe this one's, you make it a bit taller because it's important in some way. So you can imagine you have like some kind of track set up like this. So for a long time I've had this button, this keyboard shortcut F. So the idea behind F for focus hovers item F. This has been in Blockhead forever. The idea is the idea originally in my head was, I want to edit this block here. How do I get the workspace into a place that is like comfortable for editing that block? So what you can do is like double click, scroll the mouse wheel to increase the zoom, adjust the lane height. Now I can edit the block from here, right? And then to like get back to where you were, it's awful. You have to like, so I have this other keyboard shortcut escape, which does various things depending on context. So escape to close the envelope editor, escape again to unexpand the lane, escape again to contract the lane, I think it would do. And then you would roll the mouse wheel again to get the zoom level back to here. So that is just awful. So now what I have is this button down here called Recall Comfort View, and the keyboard shortcut for that is D because it's right next to F. Comfort View. It's called a Comfort View because I just literally couldn't think of any better. I didn't know what to call this. So set current view as comfort view is another operation. Alt Control D, and then just D on its own to recall comfort view. You can also right click this button and say set current view as comfort view. So let's do that here. And then this button will light up to show that we're currently at the comfort view. If I move away from the comfort view, for example, by zooming the workspace, then this will not be lit up anymore because we're not at the comfort view. But if we go back, we're currently at the comfort view. What that means basically is if you press F, then now I can press D to just return to whatever configuration. So what is involved in the comfort view? It's basically the current zoom level of the workspace plus the height of each lane plus whether or not the lane is expanded or not. So expanded is when you double click on it and the additional controls are available for the blocks, and whether or not the track is minimized or not. So now if I set this to the comfort view, so again, it's either right click here or you could press Control Alt D. Now if I like go in here or change the view in some way, I can always press D to get back to whatever I set up as the comfort view. So the idea is basically, how do I explain it? The comfort view, it's like where you'd want to be. You could use it for anything, I guess, but the way I would want to use it is you have some like overview of the project which you're constantly trying to get back to after editing something, and now it's really easy because it's just, you just press D and it goes back to exactly whatever your preferred sort of. Okay, I think I've explained that. Hopefully it makes sense. It should have been there ever since I put F in, to be honest, because it was so annoying to like get back to where you were every time by like manually scrolling. Now it's very easy. Okay. Oh, and it's per workspace, so you have a different comfort view for other workspaces if you have other workspaces. What's next? Custom fonts. You can now, I guess this is a small thing, but I have like built-in fonts, but then extra fonts you can add if you create a directory alongside the Godot executable called fonts, and you can drop fonts in there and just drop the font files, and it'll scan that directory at startup, so you can use different fonts. And I'll document the font formats that are supported. Next. You can now associate the .blockhead files with Blockhead with your operating system, and then you can double click on them to have it automatically open a project. Or you could also like drag a .blockhead file onto the Blockhead executable to open it. I can't demo that right now because I'm in debugging mode, but that should be working. So Carnival, if I had a Carnival node, is this working? Yes, that's working. So that's created in the input buffer here. That's stuff that I just did there. A very common question that people would have was, well, just something that people expected to be able to do is because you can like very easily just click this and move it into the project like that, but you can't like get it directly back into Carnival because Carnival works as a sampler as well. So the way you could do that before was once you get it into the project, it would appear in here somewhere. Loopback data, that would be this one. So you could get it from here into Carnival, but you couldn't directly just take it from here into Carnival. Now you can do that and it will crash. Again, debugging, so I'm fixing things. So that should work in the upcoming build. You should be able to just drag, you should go directly from the input buffer into Carnival. It should work. Okay, next. I think that's everything, isn't it? There's a bunch of like small things that I'm not going to mention here. There's new keyboard shortcuts, a load of bug fixes. Carnival is now saved to the project file. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to mention. So now I'm just going to focus on fixing bugs and testing and getting things ready. Okay, bye-bye.